Some stories refuse to fade, lingering in the shadows of history, reminding us that not all mysteries can be explained. Today, we'll explore one such tale, a figure who haunted the dark alleys of Victorian England, striking fear into the hearts of those unlucky enough to cross his path. His name? Spring-heeled Jack. This elusive figure is more than a ghost story. With his inhuman leaps, demonic appearance, and terrifying attacks, Spring-heeled Jack became a legend that gripped an entire nation in fear. But what made him so terrifying? Was he a mere man, a supernatural being, or something else altogether? Let's uncover the chilling truth. The year was 1837. London, shrouded in the cold mists of late autumn, was a city teetering between the modern age and the old world. Gas lamps flickered weakly in the fog, casting eerie shadows on the cobblestone streets. It was in this gloomy, oppressive atmosphere that the first reports of Spring-heeled Jack began to surface. At first, it was just whispers, strange sightings of a man leaping over walls and rooftops as if gravity had no hold over him. But the real terror began one night in the quiet district of Clapham Common. Mary Stevens, a young servant girl, was walking home after visiting family when a dark figure sprang from the shadows. He grabbed her, his cold, clawed hands digging into her flesh, and his breath, hot and sulfuric, burned her face as he let out a sinister laugh. Before Mary could scream for help, the creature released her and, with a terrifying agility, disappeared into the night, leaping over high walls as if they were nothing. When the local authorities arrived, they found no trace of the attacker. But soon, the stories of Spring-heeled Jack spread like wildfire. As more sightings occurred, the description of Spring-heeled Jack grew increasingly bizarre. Witnesses described him as tall and thin, often wearing a tight-fitting dark cloak or a strange helmet. His eyes were said to glow an unnatural red, and some reports even claimed he could spit blue flames from his mouth. His face? Some said it was human, others swore it was the face of a demon, with pointed ears, a hooked nose, and a cruel, twisted smile. But it wasn't just his appearance that haunted those who encountered him. It was his ability to leap, unnaturally high and far, effortlessly clearing walls and buildings in a single bound. His victims said that he seemed almost mechanical, moving with jerky, unnatural motions, and yet was faster than any man could hope to be. By now, Spring-heeled Jack wasn't just a strange figure in the night. He was a menace, a terror that struck without warning and disappeared just as quickly. Panic began to sweep through London, with people refusing to walk the streets alone after dark. And it wasn't long before the attacks escalated. Perhaps the most famous encounter with Spring-heeled Jack took place in February of 1838, in a quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of London. 18-year-old Jane Alsop was at home with her family when there was a knock at the door. On the other side stood a man claiming to be a police officer. He told Jane that they had captured Spring-heeled Jack down the road and needed a light. Eager to help, Jane fetched a candle and opened the door. But as she handed it to the man, he threw off his cloak, revealing a monstrous figure beneath. His eyes blazed with fire, and, in a flash, he spat blue and white flames from his mouth directly into Jane's face. Stunned, she screamed as he tore at her clothing with his sharp, metallic claws. Desperate, Jane managed to break free and run back into the house. Her sisters, alerted by her screams, rushed to her aid, but Spring-heeled Jack had already vanished into the fog. Despite an extensive search by the police, no trace of him was found. Just days after the attack on Jane, another terrifying encounter occurred. This time, the victim was Lucy Scales, a young woman walking home with her sister through a dimly lit alley in Limehouse. Without warning, Spring-heeled Jack leapt from the shadows, emitting a blinding burst of flames. Lucy collapsed in shock, But as her sister screamed for help, the figure leaped effortlessly over a high wall and disappeared into the night. Lucy's account only fueled the growing hysteria in London, with newspapers branding Spring-Heeled Jack as a demon in human form. Despite the efforts of local vigilantes, no one could catch him. He seemed to be everywhere and yet nowhere, his appearances unpredictable, his escapes impossible to believe. As the panic spread, theories about Spring-Heeled Jack's identity multiplied. Some believed he was a nobleman, using advanced mechanical devices to pull off his incredible feats. Others thought he was a demon or ghost, sent to punish the people of London for their sins. One name frequently suggested was that of the eccentric Marquis of Waterford, a notorious prankster with a history of violent behavior. Known as the Mad Marquis, Waterford was infamous for his dangerous jokes and love of chaos. Some claim that his wealth allowed him to create mechanical boots with springs that gave him his terrifying jumping ability. However, no proof was ever found to link the Marquis or anyone else to the attacks. And while the police investigated dozens of leads, Spring-Heeled Jack continued to evade capture. Over the years, the sightings spread beyond London, with reports of a similar figure appearing in Liverpool, Sheffield, and even as far as Scotland. One of the most well-documented sightings took place in Sheffield in 1877. A group of soldiers claimed they saw a figure scaling the walls of their barracks, effortlessly jumping from one rooftop to another. They described him as wearing a strange helmet and tight-fitting clothing, with glowing eyes. The soldiers fired at him, but the figure simply laughed and leapt away into the darkness. This event caused such a stir that it was reported in newspapers across the country, renewing fear that Spring-Heeled Jack had returned. By the early 1900s, sightings of Spring-Heeled Jack began to dwindle, though reports of similar figures continued to pop up sporadically. Some believe he was nothing more than a myth, an exaggeration of real-life pranksters and criminals who took advantage of the growing fear. Others maintain that Spring-Heeled Jack was something far more sinister, an entity that could never be truly explained or caught. His legend has inspired countless stories, plays, and even comic books, and he remains one of the most enduring mysteries of Victorian England. Even today, some claim to have seen him, leaping across rooftops on foggy nights, his eerie laughter echoing through the streets. Could Spring-Heeled Jack still be out there, waiting for the perfect moment to strike again? The legend of Spring-Heeled Jack is more than just a story. It's a symbol of the unknown, of fears that cannot be easily explained. Whether he was a man, a demon, or something else, his story reminds us that not all mysteries have answers. And sometimes the scariest things are the ones we can't understand. So, next time you hear a strange sound in the night or catch a glimpse of a shadow moving just a little too quickly, remember, Spring-Heeled Jack may still be out there, watching, waiting. If this story gave you chills, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another terrifying tale. And don't go just yet. There's another chilling story waiting for you right now on the screen. See you next time, if Spring-Heeled Jack doesn't get to you first.